We just want to say a huge thank you for your participation. We absolutely love to see you get involved. So the only things left to do now are to sit back, relax. Have you got your munchies? And enjoy the show.
Well, I suppose we should almost re-edit that particular one from Liv to say we try and enjoy the show, because obviously it's not the best kind of breaking news that we enjoy bringing you on Geeksvana Live here. But again, we like to try and bring things as they happen. So hence this little Geeksvana live stream. To answer the questions in the chat, yes, I do have new headphones. I have these new in-ear monitors as opposed to my old clunky things, which I still use the clunky things for editing, but these are much better for the in-ear. Okay, so we have some fairly major breaking news hitting the airwaves in the last hour, really, or certainly the last few minutes. Now, you'll notice my title says US DJI ban ? DJI placed on the entity list. I forgot a D there in that, but never mind. Now, what's happening here is I will say one thing which I've written down first, which will in essence explain this, and then we will go in and break this down. So DJI have been placed on the entity list. This means the US government do not want the items imported and will place more hurdles, such as individual and expensive licenses for each and every product from that company. You will still get the product, but at a much higher cost. What this effectively means is that you will not see DJI products on the shelves of Best Buy, etc., and that type of thing, whilst this is in place. Now, this was announced, excuse me for looking away from the camera, but I have to look at my notes on the screen over here. This was announced this afternoon. So DJI, one of the largest and of course most popular drone companies in the world, has been added to the US Department of Commerce's entity list, which designates the Chinese company as a national security risk and banning US-based companies from doing business with DJI. Now, this was first reported by Reuters, who were part of a conference call with senior commerce officials. The ban was put in place through the same mechanism the US government's ongoing ban on Huawei products was done with, and it will make it extremely difficult for US stores like Best Buy or Amazon to directly sell DJI products. US businesses will also face severe difficulty in providing parts or components for DJI to use on its drones. The ban is set to go into effect when the list is officially updated at 11:15 a.m. Eastern Time. So that's, some fairly major news for us DJI flyers, especially for those of you over in the United States. Now, one part of which is surprising, it wasn't actually some kind of rationale of spying or espionage. The Commerce Department is actually reporting citing human rights concerns over DJI's involvement in providing drones to the Chinese government as the rationale for the ban, instead of, as I say, security concerns. DJI drones have been used to surveil different provinces back in 2017, and that's which was covered in a Bloomberg Business Week report actually, and that's the bit that people are looking at. But with the United States government has also cited several concerns in the past over security issues with the drones, which are largely made in China and contain Chinese parts. The Department of the Interior has announced plans to ground its drone fleet as it reviews whether there are major concerns. That's not really news to us, is it? Here on the channel, we know that the DJI drones have already been pretty much dropped by federal agencies and that type of thing. The Department of Defense has, of course, recently certified several other drones from competitors like Parrot and Skydio, as we know, for government use instead, after several years of review. Now, this is a significant escalation, or it's seen as a significant escalation in President Trump's ongoing efforts to block Chinese tech companies from operating in the United States. Obviously, they placed Huawei on the entity list by executive order in May 2019, citing national security concerns. Europe and the UK over here, we've largely decided to follow suit and can have declined rather to follow suit, and we continue to use the Huawei hardware. In actual fact, my personal phone is Huawei. One of the reasons I have that is because it is recommended for use with a lot of DJI products, ironically. So this was obviously similar to other Chinese tech bans, which the US government have attempted to bring in more recently. So this is huge news for anyone flying a drone in the United States, and it is going to create issues. Now, when you go across to the actual Bureau of Industry and Security, the US Department of Commerce website, the entity list is as such. The entity list identifies foreign parties that are prohibited from receiving some or all items subject to the EAR unless the exporter secures a license. These parties present a greater risk of diversion to weapons of mass destruction programs, terrorism, or other activities contrary to US national security and or foreign policy interests. By publicly listing such parties, the entity list is an important tool to prevent unauthorized trade in items subject to the EAR. BIS can add to the entity list a foreign party such as an individual, business, research institution or government organization for engaging in activities contrary to US national security and or foreign policy interests. In most instances, license exceptions are unavailable for the export, re-export or transfer in country to a party on the entity of list items subject to the EAR. Rather, prior license authorization is required, usually subject to a policy of denial. That's actually the official text. For guidance concerning the prohibitions and license application review policy to a particular party, please review that party's entry on the list. Procedures for removal from the entity list appear in section 744.16 of the EAR. Now, so we could see this changing. Obviously, in the future, there is a change coming at the top of at the top of the government, of course. So that's things in basic terms. I'll be very interested to hear in the chat of the US flyers that are joining us how you feel this is going to impact things. Obviously, having DJI taken off the shelves, certainly whilst all this gets resolved, it's going to take a long time for DJI to catch up with this. It's going to impact things severely, certainly, and you wonder whether that will change when the administration changes in January. But you have to know what they know. Trevor Kerr Lewis, will this affect the support update to the USA 2? They may decide to stop this. Well, yeah, I can understand that. There is bound to be some kind of reaction, frankly, from DJI, and whether that is to sit and wait, to sit and wait and to attempt to find out what the new administration's view of it will be. Who knows? I mean, my concern here is, of course, that we have products in DJI which are reliable. We have products in DJI which do the job that they're asked to do. And do we have anything else that law enforcement, that search and rescue can use, which are available now? That's the thing I need to be convinced of, frankly. Ellisman, US government adds DJI to commerce block list over ties to Chinese commerce. Exactly. Yes. This is obviously another hit back at the whole side of things in terms of the current administration's views on Chinese products and Chinese tech. It is difficult. It is difficult to take a particular side on this because you can see viewpoints from both of it. But this is certainly going to have a major impact on DJI consumers in the United States, especially for the next few months. Urbexy, will being on the entity list not require Google and Apple to remove the software from their stores? The full implications of that kind of things will come to light in the next few hours and few days, especially when we hear back from DJI, because technically, ever so technically, this isn't a ban. You're placed on the entity list. But if you look at things like Huawei, I don't know of many people in the United States who can get hold of Huawei products straight off the shelf or at your Best Buy or Amazon and that type of thing. And when you take away a company's mass market opportunity, so when you take away their point of sale for selling millions of products, then of course you make them a much smaller player in that market, and therefore the amount that they're going to put into it is going to be, is going to be very, very difficult. Coast to Coast Drones, you can only order direct and you'll know they'll watch the hell out of you. Well, yeah, indeed. I mean, how it's going to impact things, as I say, is going to be interesting. DJI's response to this will be the most interesting thing to me, because it'll be whether or not they go hell for leather regarding actually marketing their products to the US audience directly, or whether or not they are simply going to wait this one out. But hopefully most of you have been dropping enough hints about that DJI Mini 2 under the Christmas tree, so hopefully you've all got those there. We don't know how this affects the issues in terms of existing products which are on the shelves. The policy which I just read out does actually state quite clearly that you're not allowed to transfer between entities, etc. So certainly restocking, even things which are in the country, restocking the shops, DJI won't be able to do that, which is a real shame. Lindsay Hayes, could be interesting given that the sensitivity in the USA will be massively increased by the cyber attack penetration of their nuclear stockpile data. I wonder who will be the bad actors that might be. Yeah, and that's the thing. You have to wonder how much of this situation is created by politics, or whether there is actually real security concerns here and real human rights issues here. So that side of things, I'm a drone channel. I have my views, but this isn't a platform for me to talk about that type of thing necessarily. But certainly, I think that you will see this kind of thing playing out in the media. This is going to be a very big story, as Airlessman mentioned. People like The Verge have already got stories out on this. Of course, Drone DJ have already put stories out. Reuters were indeed the first to actually break this. So it is going to be something interesting. In fact, let's take a look at the original Reuters wording of the report here. So they're stating that the Chinese drone giant DJI Technology Co. is being added to the US government's economic blacklist. A senior commerce official told reporters on a conference call Friday today. DJI is just one of dozens of Chinese companies that were added to the blacklist. China's top chip maker, SMIC, is being added too. That is going to have an impact as well. The move is consistent with President Donald Trump's vows to be tough on China. Chinese drone giant DJI Co. Is being added to the US government's economic blacklist. Reuters reported earlier that dozens of Chinese companies are being added. The restrictions will have come into effect, as I was saying before, at 11:15 a.m. EST, when a list of companies being added is published. The official said a representative for DJI did not immediately respond to a request for comment, which you can't really blame them from that point of view. Urbexy sounds like pressure being put on DJI to move assembly to the USA for US consumers. Yeah, I know what you mean, and there were a lot of people in the drone industry on the commercial side of things that did wonder whether we would see DJI starting to switch their operations to US based factories. Ironically, I think you'll find that in actual fact they're becoming even more centralized to China, has been the response to the issues that they're having over there. So yeah. I'm trying to pronounce your name, Nexusly. There you go, because we've got Urbexy as well. That threw me for a moment. Just don't ban the current gear already out there, please, unless DJI wants to pay us to return the items. If goggles someday stopped working from software, I'm going to be pissed. I can completely understand that sentiment, and this is the other thing it does. It isn't just about whether or not you can go and buy a product, that type of thing. This does do a lot of damage. This does an awful lot of damage to the confidence in a manufacturer. Even if this is lifted in January or February with the new administration, you're going to have a situation where people are going to be very concerned and hesitant about buying that product. Okay, not perhaps us seasoned drone professionals then, but us seasoned drone veterans who enjoy flying the DJI drones, etc., and have confidence in the product, so we will possibly keep coming back. But your average consumer, if they hear the word ban and they hear the word entity list, etc., and that's explained on the 9 o'clock news, even when they're then available in the future freely again at normal prices, you're not going to necessarily gain all of that consumer confidence back. So that's going to have an issue. Think of it as if, you know, Huawei suddenly come off that list and was launched and launched a new phone across the United States. There would be a certain amount of consumer hesitancy in that. Eddie Nunez, great to see you. So I have seen a couple of comments from you. Sean, what does this mean for the future upcoming releases, such as the potential new DJI FPV system? Yeah, how this will affect the DJI FPV drone is badly, frankly. Those products, because we're looking at a January release, and these products are in the hands of YouTubers already, YouTuber beta testers, etc., already have these things, especially those who aren't FPV competent, because obviously a lot of DJI products, most DJI products are camera drone related. So those people have already got those drones to get practicing, so they're good at flying them for when their videos come out in January. That is going to impact things. I think you'll still see the flurry of activity from YouTube, and you'll still see all of the usual suspects and the big FPV people giving their reviews on these. But I think you're also going to see a large campaign directly from DJI. Now, if they can get enough products in there through that particular route, then I think you're going to see much better situation for it. This is going to significantly harm that particular release, because again, you're not going to get an issue from the point, you're not going to get a situation where DJI will individually license these products for sale at Best Buy, etc., because of the cost implications that would add onto a unit would be significant. So of course, someone's not going to go to Best Buy and buy the FPV drone at $3,000 when they can order it directly for $1,500 on a combo package. Old Fart and a GoPro, hi, good to see you, sir, and thank you very much for being one of the first people to order one of our merch shirts. This is a blue one actually, but you ordered one of the black special 5K ones. If anyone's interested, in the community tab, we've just launched our first launch of limited merchandise. They're t-shirts like this, black, with a special 5K on the side to celebrate us hitting 5,000 subscribers. Thank you all very much for that, by the way. And we're only doing 50 of them, so it's 5K01 to 5K50 numbered on the side, and they look really cool actually. They're very high quality, very thick shirts. They sit well on both slim people and should we say people of a more rotund nature, such as myself. Can we say that? So yes, it's great to see you, sir, and thank you for being one of the first people there. Will sales affect in the UK in any way? Possibly not. And Scouting Nathan asked the same thing as well. Do you think this will affect the UK at any point? We seem to be going in a different direction in the UK and EU. We haven't wanted to go along the lines of any kind of outright bans and that type of thing. In actual fact, Huawei is still very much a presence as well. It could impact things from the point of view that we might see a lot of stock availability, especially for the FPV drone. It's going to be very interesting. Trevor Kerr-Lewis, yes, Sony will be watching closely at this. 100% they will. And you have to wonder how many other manufacturers like Sony are waiting in the wings for this to enter the marketplace, essentially. Lindsay Hayes, the fact that NOTAMs and exclusion zones reveal the geolocation of sensitive sites, DJI drones could easily update firmware to send images of targets for those locations cheaper than satellites. Yeah, and we have to remember that part of the issue that really started a lot of the anti-DJI stuff from a federal and from a US government point of view is because previously, I mean, the US Army, etc., dropped using Chinese drones quite some time ago, but federal agencies were then told to as well, because they were flying their drones over, of course, doing sensitive inspections of pipelines and different sites and nuclear power sites, that type of thing, and of course that data was in some circumstances able to be transmitted to China at servers, and they weren't Chinese servers, and they weren't sure exactly how secure that was going to be. DJI did very quickly move to bring all of that data within the US so that you could, on your commercial grade enterprise level DJI drones, you could set all of your data to stay within a local point, and there was lots of ring fencing, but that didn't satisfy them enough. And the momentum has continued. There was even the Drone Security Act of 2019, which was passing through Congress, which would have seen an official ban on using Chinese drones, even down as low as your local sheriff's department and that type of thing. So it's been building, and they've done it this way, possibly as well because of the time left for this particular administration. So they've had to move quickly to do this kind of thing. Recovery One drone, robust shape is the proper wording. Frequency of thought to DJI software has always been sketchy AF. And that's one of the things I know when Parrot launched their Anafi USA drone, which of course is their drone which fits the and is approved by the US Department of Defense. They went to great in their launch material. They went to great ends to point out all of the issues with DJI software and the other third parties that have found issues with it and that type of thing. I didn't really like that because I felt that Parrot should have sold the drone on their launch day on its merits and not picked holes in other people. But yes, there has been a lot of accusations there for sure. And yes, SJM Drones and Media Go4 app is updated. You can now use local mode from what he's read today. That's right, there was an update a few days ago, maybe about a week ago, which gave that option, which is obviously helpful for those even those enterprise users who are using Mavic 2 Pros for their business. It is a good thing to be able to keep hold of your own data, and data is going to become the key word in technology as we move forward. You're going to have people that are going to have two kinds of attitude, where they want to keep all of their data because data is power, of course, and those that are happy to have their data out there because they want free and easy access to all this new technology which is coming up. Urbexy, this may be the catalyst for the revival of the DIY drones. Fly and rebuild daily. Yes, I have to say I'm concerned whenever I kind of veer towards FPV and self-build. I'm a member of a local flying club who fly helis, a lot of scale models, 3D helis and FPV quads, and they very kindly allowed me to join so I could practice my camera drone flying in a safe area before I was released to the public. And the amount of crashes that I see there and the cost of those crashes, I know the scale helis are thousands when they crash, but I'm not sure I want to go down that rabbit hole yet, but it is beckoning me. It is certainly beckoning me, and I can feel myself getting pulled towards it, that's for sure. Blind Neil, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Jake's Drone Life, I just joined. If you've answered this already, will we get updates in the US still? I think you will, mainly because you should still be able to buy these products directly from DJI in China. There is still going to be an issue from the point of view of them getting stopped at the ports for extra checks and that type of thing. This we will have to wait to see how DJI decide to respond to it, because if the implication of even selling to you directly will put the price of an individual unit up to the point where they don't think a consumer will be interested, you could see issues. But we haven't had any kind of response from DJI yet, but we are expecting one obviously fairly soon. Recovery One drone, this ban is a Trump act to upset the cart and make it harder for the next administration to work on future deals, and not look good if they are giving away the farm to China. Yeah, I think this is definitely, as I say, the politics side of things I will leave for other channels who specialise in such things. And of course, I'm a UK resident, so I don't want to comment too much on another country's politics. But yes, it will be interesting to see how this goes down with the new administration and whether or not we see any kind of change. Urbexy, I wonder what percentage of DJI sales are from the USA. I would guess at least 30%. Well, I know when I looked up at the stats, that the UK made up a surprisingly small amount of it. Bloomberg are reporting that DJI now accounts for about 77% of drone sales in the United States. No other rival has more than 4%. So of their particular market share, I'm not sure, but I know that the UK is a very small percentage, and it's why I've sometimes been concerned that with new CE markings and that type of thing, whether or not we'd see all of the DJI drones even released here. Certainly the new FPV drone, I wonder whether that will get any kind of CE marking. It's not needed for a couple of years necessarily, but I'll be interested to see whether that just gets the C4 marking or anything else because of its stability, flight stability. But yes, 70% of drone sales in the US are thought to be DJI, so that's an awful lot of units, frankly. The VFR Andy, good afternoon, legends. Happy Friday, and good afternoon to you, sir, VFR Andy. I assume you have some ties to the manned aviation world if you're VFR Andy there. Okay, so for those those of you who have just joined us, the headline, as it were, you're going to be hearing over the weekend is the US government bans DJI over ties to the Chinese government. Now, one of the things to consider here is there have been two fairly recent new laws brought into effect within China, and those effectively, in essence, I think it's 2016 and 2018, it might be 2017. Those two laws effectively make it illegal within China, or a legal responsibility for every person to be available, every individual to be available for acts of espionage, essentially, on behalf of the Chinese Secret Service. And also any company that is of a certain size or larger has to have an openness of its books, of its data, etc., with the secret services as well. And that kind of thing obviously is going to send shockwaves across the world. I'm not for a minute suggesting that European governments and US and other world governments don't have deals with their major tech companies, but China has a very public legislation to show that, basically. So that's obviously going to be one of the things which is sparking concern here. And the way that the ban, in inverted commas, is actually being brought into things is by adding them to the entity list, which is the Bureau of Industry and Security, US Department of Commerce, which on their website they say where industry and security intersect. So this essentially means that they are going to be placed on the same list that Huawei are on. Of course, I was telling you that the major chip maker, SCIM, I think they're called. It might have SMIC. I always get the letters the wrong way around. I don't know why I want to say SCIM, but there we go. So yes, SMIC have also been added there, who of course is one of China's top chip makers. So it's going to be interesting what kind of impact that has on the wider things. Drone shots, Geeksvana, Sean, fill me in. I just got here. Let me just cough there a moment and just take a very small drink. I feel like I have been talking non-stop now for quite a few minutes, so we won't go on too much longer with this particular stream, as I'd like anybody that wants to rewatch it to have a chance to be able to understand what's going on as well. But yes, for those of you who are just joining us, as the title suggests, US DJI ban. I put a question mark there because this isn't something where you can say, right, this is absolutely banned. This is an import restriction issue. They've been placed on the entity list. I can read you the people who've just joined part of the official Bureau of Industry and Security, US Department of Commerce listing. I'll just refresh with part of it for those who've just joined us. The entity list identifies foreign parties that are prohibited from receiving some or all of the subject or all items subject to the EAR unless the exporter secures a license. These parties present a greater risk of diversion to weapons of mass destruction programs, terrorism, or other activities contrary to the US national security and or foreign policy interests. By publicly listing such parties, the entity list is an important tool to prevent unauthorized trade in such items subject to the EAR. So you're going to see these products disappearing from the shelves, essentially. Yes, there's going to be some form of direct purchasing available. At what price, we're not sure yet, but that will happen. Interestingly, one of the other lines of this, which I found quite interesting, is that the BIS entity the list can be any individual, business, research institution, or government organisation for engaging in activities contrary to US national security. Now, there are licenses exceptions available for the export, re-export, or transfer in country, But as it says here, the prior license authorization is required, usually subject to policy of denial. So they're already telling you there that even if you were to meet those licensing requirements, the policy is to look for denial, basically. Half Chrome, hi, great to see you. Thank you very much for joining us. Ironically, I posted a video about my favourite drones not made by DJI. Yes, you did. And in fact, you had a very similar thumbnail, because your thumbnail gave me some inspiration. And in actual fact, let me go across and find that video so I can pop it in the chat, actually, because that was a very good video. I really enjoyed it. Those of you who haven't seen this video from Half Chrome yet, this is a video which is basically where they're looking at the best drones, the top 10 drones, which aren't actually DJI drones, which is almost apt timing there, really, isn't it? So, but I'd recommend you give that a watch. Jalen, US banned DJI, kind of overreacting. They're meant to collect data from the user, so whenever they crash or lose the drone, they could analyze the flight data and determine whether it is human error or defect. Absolutely, and that obviously is the original intention there. Whether or not from a political point of view and a security services point of view that has changed with the recent laws that have come into effect in China, as I was talking about before. Who knows? But yes, this is obviously going to be an issue. DJI is a private company; they have nothing to do whether the Chinese government is spying on us. Well, Jylan, yes and no. Yes and no. There are two laws within China, and those actually do ensure that companies of a certain size, which DJI are well above that size, do actually have to fully cooperate and open their books and data to the Chinese security services. That is absolute fact. That is openly within Chinese legislation. So, and that of course creates some kind of ripples. Treetop Flyer, unlikely that retailers will take existing stock off the shelves, but their inventories may be depleted due to disruptions in the supply chain. Certainly the supply chain will dry up very, very quickly. I noticed the wording was also talking about swapping between parties within the country. So I presume that also impacts the point of view of sorry, I have a cat next to me who's trying to get in on the stream. That also impacts the side of things from the point of view of moving from DJI US into Best Buy and into local stores, etc. Lindsay Hayes at Treetop Flyer, and potentially any country that gains to follow the US's lead if past experience is any guide. Thankfully for us in the UK and the EU, so far we've gone in an opposite direction to the US's take on that side of things. Urbexy, in China, larger companies are required exactly to have a backdoor for government to access their data. Unfortunately, yes. That doesn't necessarily mean that that isn't in place everywhere else in the world. Frankly, you know, for any of us to think that we aren't being watched in different ways is of course naive. But yes, it is actually there in plain law for anyone to see that. Gary Brantera, is good to see you. Just here absorbing all this. When the border opens, Canada retailers will be happy to sell DJI to our neighbours. Yes, indeed. Well, I think that still technically comes down as import. And there is actually a particular stipulation under the entity list that tries to stop that happening. Let me try and pronounce this name. Quibili, I hope I've said that right. I feel the world should just ban all things made in China, but that would be like almost everything out there. Yes, and that is an ongoing issue, isn't it, really? It really is. Lindsay Hayes at Geeksvana, opposite direction with 5G. Yeah, I mean, you again, I'm not going to get into the wider politic of it because, you know, there are issues all over the world, and how we see different countries, how we see different cultures is very heavily weighted by the media that we watch, and by the freedom of the press in those countries as well. Simon Hawkins, good to see you, sir. One of our channel members. Banning companies using presidential powers a month before the new president takes office, madness. I think there will be a lot of, especially US flyers, who will agree with you there for sure. Okay, this one I really need to see. DJL, see if I can pronounce it right. Now you are ticked, which means you are verified. So thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate that. DJL SB Vapes. Am I saying that right, or is there a cool way to say your name? I apologise if I got that wrong. This is very sad. I rely on a lot of features DJI drones have that others don't, and that's some of the feedback that I have had recently from people that informed me of this. I'm very fortunate to have some great contacts in the drone industry, which have built up over the last 12 months, and the people that called me had a few calls from a few different people, and yeah, that is very much one of the things they're concerned about for things like search and rescue, law enforcement, etc. What type of drones would they suggest necessarily are going to replace these? Yes, there are now the Skydios and the Parrots, etc., and that type of thing. But there are so many things that DJI do so well, and I do not want anyone to think that this stream or this channel is anything anti DJI or anything else like that. We just like to try and bring you the news as it happens. This is obviously a very negative story, and will hit the hobby in the US fairly hard for the foreseeable future. Chameleon, this ban, what a surprise to absolutely no one. Yeah, it was coming, I think. Big Black, I imagine the same goes for Autel as well. Well, that might explain why Autel very quickly got one of their enterprise level drones approved on is it approved on this? It's certainly US made. So yes, we'll have to wait and see whether it impacts them or not. SGM drones and media, your mobile phone and the apps you put on it do a lot more in terms of spying. Fact, yeah, and that is true, and it's sad. Frankly, it is sad. This is a sad day from the point of view of how it affects the hobby and that type of thing. I would have liked to have seen a major company and two major governments like China and the US work this out and keep the consumers happy, because of course in these times, 2020 has already been a very tough year. I would like to see the retailers that invest so heavily on marketing the DJI products. I don't want to see them suffer through this. This has already been a very tough year, and it would have been nice to see something there. Unless, of course, there is genuine data there that we don't know about. There's genuine information there. This has been done from a human rights perspective rather than a straight security perspective. So it doesn't seem that we're about to get another report to say what DJI are doing wrong in security terms. So we'll have to wait and see. Obili, a tech company out of Shenzhen, China, is the best in the world. You'd be really surprised to see what sort of high tech the Chinese have. Sad that they abuse it. Hashtag surveillance capitalism. Yeah, and that is a viewpoint that a lot of people are going to share. So thank you for putting that. And certainly you look at things like the Xinjiang province in China, which has the smart city where you can actually go to a drone hotel and take the EHang 182 passenger drones for a sightseeing tour of the bay and the old town, etc. Which is, yes, it's a marketing gimmick to get that drone on the map, but that passenger drone on the map. But it's still something quite cool. So yes, there are certainly some advances happening there which would amaze your average UK or US citizen. Lindsay Hayes, well, I love my Mavic Mini, but China is a bad actor in so many ways. DJI should move their company to the free world. Yeah, it's very difficult, and it's tough when consumers get caught up in the politic of it, because again, of course, people's motivations, people's aspirations and love for a company can change when this type of thing happens. And as I said before, it's going to be interesting to see whether this has a direct impact on consumer confidence, the wider consumer confidence, the people that are buying the Mini 2s en masse at the moment, whether or not hearing that in the background will make them concerned from a future update point of view. I don't think it will be an issue. If I had to stake a claim, and I need a little opinion banner on top of here, so this is now an opinion of Sean Hickey and Geeksvana and nothing else, I would wonder whether this is going to be somewhat reversed. Although you can't have something somewhat reversed, Sean, that's not very good English. I need to put my balls on the cutting board, don't I, really, and say I think that this will be reversed with the coming administration. How they do that and what pressure they'll be under to keep it, as somebody said in the chat earlier, whether this is a tactic to make the next administration look weak on China, I'm not sure. But as I say, I don't want to get into that type of thing. Because you know, we could point fingers at every democracy around the world, frankly, in terms of who is right and who is wrong in this stage. So just very quickly, for those, I can see our numbers increasing, that we've obviously added a few new people in the chat. Hi, good to see you. Come and say hi in the chat. And let us know what you think of this breaking news. So that the US government bans DJI over ties to the Chinese government. American companies will be forbidden from transacting with the drone maker, which is going to be an interesting one. So DJI, one of the largest and most popular drone companies in the world, has been added to the US Department of Commerce Entity List, designating the Chinese company a national security risk and banning US-based companies from doing business with DJI. Now, although there's complexities to the Entity List and there's ways to still get those products and things like that, the impact this had on Huawei's business in the US was huge. And that being the headline, that being the type of text which you're going to be reading on mass market, mass media websites and hearing on the news this evening, that is the kind of thing which I think is going to have a very saddening impact, frankly, on the drone hobby and DJI in the United States. Let's go back to a few more of your comments. BobSag59, thanks for joining us. Good to see you. Doesn't Apple build their flagship iPhone in China? They should be put on the same list or change their supply chain. I can see your point. There are subtleties to it that mean the way that it happens. For instance, with Parrot, who have their IP, their intellectual property was obviously French and was based in France. They transferred that to the US, and then a US aerospace company actually built the Parrot and AFI USA on their behalf. All of that ring fenced together gives enough security for that to be on the DoD approved list of drones. Similar with the iPhone, from the point of view of you can have external parts, but it's really where the IP is and where the security of the network is as well, frankly. Although this is being done obviously on human rights issues, I must stress. Coast to Coast, it blows. Bill, hi, good to see you. If you don't have Coast to Coast, pop over and follow Bill. I was a guest on one of his live streams recently, so if you want to learn a bit more about Geeksvana, you can go back and watch that particular stream. But it's good to see you here, Bill. Are we going to see some freaky watch list? Are we going to go on some freaky watch list if we order the new FPV drone directly, or how long before they make it impossible to import at all? Well, I mean, the entity list is an import thing, and it does stop companies dealing with them. You're going to see a lot more issues with them even bringing them in directly, and a lot more cost added to it, I believe. But again, it will be interesting to see what DJI say about that. Jeff DeLille, I thought our president was all about the free market capitalism, hypocrite. Yeah, again, they will argue because they're doing this under other things. Quabili, we need regulations of network technologies. Sir Anthony John Banners-Lee thought this, though nothing much came of it. This is why this mess is here. Yeah, I can't disagree with that. Frosty Flake, the code found in Hikvision and DJI cameras is concerning to a high degree and has caused this action. If it were open sourced, that would change, but the incoming administration will be totally hamstrung. And I think, and somebody made a very similar point before. Thank you for making that point about the code as well. But somebody made a very similar point about how this impacts the future administration's ability to do anything without being seen as potentially weak on that particular foreign policy issue. JSK Enterprise, will this affect the way remote ID is applied? No, it will not. SGM Drones and Media. I don't think you could fully build any drone that wouldn't have some Chinese parts. Come to think of it, any electronic gadgets include most goods within your home. Absolutely, 100%. However, it is, as I was explaining with the Parrot example, it is how that intellectual property, how the servers from the software side of things, how all of that is dealt with. It's kind of more important where the individual components are. I could bring components together from several different countries and build it here in the UK, have my servers here in the UK, everything else like that, and that would be a UK drone. As long as there's no chips in their software backing me up that then has to go to different servers outside of the country, that would be very much a UK secure drone if there is ever such a thing. Paul Murray, good to see you, sir. Always enjoy your ship videos. Sean, There is always an attack and finger pointing to distract the public by giving everyone something to fear. Most people should remember that tech is always going to monitor the average person. Absolutely. Absolutely. I was having the amount of conversations that I've had with my phone in earshot, and then I go on my phone and suddenly an advert for something that I've discussed has popped up, even though I don't remember ever searching for that product. Yeah, I completely agree with you. It is everywhere. This isn't just about any one subject, which is why I've tried to keep the politic out of this live stream to an extent, because it isn't about any one subset here, any one subject place. Chameleon, it is funny because while China being a bad actor on the international stage isn't exactly breaking news, so is America really. It's like a killer condemning a rapist. Okay, I can understand that viewpoint. Both governments have been very hardline in defending their self-interests. This is just an example of that. Yeah, and this is very much this is bigger than DJI. This is bigger than us flying our DJI drones. This really is an ongoing battle between two administrations, technically. Canadian drone pilots. Canada will be happy to ship the DJI drones to our USA flying friends, unless that loophole is plugged. I think it is plugged, unfortunately. But thank you very much for that offer. Perhaps we could see Canadian drone pilot exports LLC popping up very soon. Martin Pritchard, hi, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Hello, new to the drone world. I hope to get my first drone from Santa. Was looking forward to flying a camera, and I'm based in the UK. Well, welcome to the hobby, Martin. It is a fantastic one. I feel you're joining at a really good time, because depending on what you buy and what qualification you decide to stop at, we're going to be able to fly our drones in the UK in many more places than we ever were before, and enjoy ourselves and be able to get our little pieces of paper out and show anybody that doesn't like it, which I'm really, really looking forward to. Evil Rocco. This is going to create a grey market and be hard to police and enforce. A box of spare motors, cameras, gimbals, impossible to stop. But yeah, no, I agree with you there. And it's also whether or not we're going to see an upsurge in third-party products as well, which will effectively clone those parts as well. Kimbo, will this affect the release of the DJI FPV V2 system? I'm in Canada. I don't think it will affect you in Canada. It will affect things certainly in the US for the FPV drone, which obviously has the V2 goggles, and we assume therefore the V2 goggles will be sold separately. Frosty Flake, we've overlooked the human rights issue in China for a decade now, and these are in front from Apple to DJI, indeed. Bobsag59, do you think it is possible that a US could purchase DJI? That would solve anything. That's interesting, because of course we saw with the TikTok issue, we saw other companies, Microsoft and other companies stepping forward to do deals that would essentially bring the data into the US officially and create a ring fence, which then allowed them to continue trading. It'll be interesting to see whether or not that is something which happens. Retoms, I don't know if there's something wrong with your keyboard. You've just put E there a few times. Brett Nunley, good to see you, sir. Quibilly, as long as you're connected to a network, cybersecurity is a big myth, as the Tooth Fairy. Absolutely. And if you look at any company, any cybersecurity company, from the point of view of, sorry, Retoms, I'm just going to put you in a very short timeout because your messages I assume you've got a problem with your keyboard or something. I hope you're okay. Hope those E's aren't a cry for help. But yes, if you look at any large cybersecurity company, if you have data that you say, I really don't want anyone ever getting hold of this, it will be a closed off air system. So it'll be a system which is not connected to the internet at all, frankly. Otherwise, as you say, there is no such thing as real cybersecurity. And I do agree with you there. Ellisman currently making his first video with the Mini 2. Fantastic. I hope that goes well for you, sir. Looking forward to seeing it. Jeff DeLille, our data is being monitored by multiple governments already. What's new? Don't we also willingly post our videos for the world to see? There's no hiding from these entities. Snowden proved that. Well, that's a good point, and I wonder if that's part of what's behind the fact that this was done under human rights issues, primarily for the entity list rather than technology. So you have to wonder that, certainly. Urbexy, I can see the US government's going after the app It is the method data is being transmitted. DJI probably need to prove nothing. Not needed to provide the service is being back to them. Well, hopefully this won't affect the ongoing use of existing drones in the US for sure. Akarasho, good to see you, sir. Always something with this hobby. Yes, unfortunately. Calm Keeper, sorry, I'm just joining late to the video, but I'm curious what it would be a good idea to go out and get, say, another DJI product before it possibly becomes available, or do you think I'm safe? That's really difficult, because whenever somebody comes on and says, should I spend some money? It's a difficult one. I honestly think that we will see some kind of reversion, some kind of reversal on this, but famous last words, because as other people in the chat who are US based and who will be able to comment on American politics far more than a guy in the UK, I don't see it as my right to do that publicly. Doing this now does make it very difficult. It does it does leave the new administration hamstrung, unfortunately. Russ 51 Drones, good to see you, sir. It is a big news day. Very good to see you, sir. I'm sure we're going to be seeing some content in your channel regarding this as well, and it'd be great to hear your views. If anyone who is based in the US of the 75 watching right now who doesn't have Russ from 51 Drones, go and get him, because his videos, particularly on the US regulation side of things, are fantastic. His product reviews aren't bad either, to be fair, and his production value is essentially my wish list. He's really upped his game on his production value, from shirts with the names on, really high quality polo shirts and baseball caps, through to a fantastic looking studio these days. So well done, Russ, on your continued success. But yes, if you're a US based flyer, I highly recommend you go over and support him. Coast to Coast Drones, they're saying it's doubtful that anything will be reversed, and that is the problem with this kind of list. It will take a lot of doing. And obviously the way the political landscape will be in January, even with the new administration, it won't be that easy for, even if the new administration absolutely wanted to reverse it. Will DJI still be able to honour the DJI refresh in the US? Well, as it is technically, the entity list does prohibit things like spare parts. That's a very, very good question. Very good question, actually. I'm actually going to message somebody to ask them a question on your behalf. Will this impact refresh? There you go. If I get an answer before the stream ends, which won't be long now, I will let you know. JSK, I just saw 51 Drones live stream on this topic. Excellent. I knew Russ would absolutely be the man to step forward with some news on this. Okay, so Zachary Crouch, the US government is no longer allowed to buy or associate with companies that deal in the Chinese-based telecommunications equipment. So long as DJI is a Chinese company, they'll probably stay banned. And that is the issue here. The hopes of reversing this, no matter what a future administration's opinion is, depending on what facts it's based on, would be very, very difficult to do just from a straight commercial point of view. When a company gets put on one of these lists for either national security issues or in this instance for human rights issues, it's very difficult to reverse that without seeing significant changes. Okay, I can see a few of the different names starting to pop into the chat. So one final time, I'll just run over the news that we have. If you've got any questions, please ask them in the chat. I am running through the chat as well. This is intended only to be a very quick stream, actually, but I've enjoyed myself chatting with you. A lot of my live streams are shows, so we have a set program and videos to play out and guests that are coming on. It's rare that I get a chance to sit and chat with the chat audience in this kind of way. So I'm really enjoying it. So thank you so much for joining us. So DJI, one of the largest and most popular drone companies in the world, as we all know, has been added to the US Department of Commerce entity list, designating the Chinese company as a national security risk and banning US-based companies from doing business with DJI. Now, Reuters first reported this news, which cited a conference call with senior commerce officials. The ban was put in place through the same mechanism as the US government's ongoing ban on Huawei products, and it will make it extremely difficult for US stores like Best Buy or Amazon to directly sell DJI products. US businesses will also face severe difficulty in providing parts or components to DJI for use in its drones. The ban is set to go into effect when the list is officially updated at 11:15 a.m. Eastern Time. Now that's interesting as well, because we were talking about Refresh before. On the side of things that they will face severe difficulty in providing parts or components to DJI drones. I'm not sure how many parts from a US company go into your average DJI drone, but there will be some, and that will of course potentially give us some issues moving forward in terms of that. Okay, we have another troll in the chat there. Sorry sir, have to hide you there, I'm afraid. Elsa Meghead, good to see you, our senior moderator. 2 million Americans will emigrate to the UK. Yes, very possibly. Very possibly see that coming very soon. And again, for those of you who have just joined us, I will read off the Bureau of Industry and Security, US Department of Commerce's official listing of the entity list, official explanation of it. In the event that a company, entity or person or one of the following lists or person on one of the following lists appears to match a potential party in an export transaction, additional due diligence is required before proceeding. Depending on which list the match was found, a match indicates either there is a strict export prohibition, a specific license requirement, or the presence of a red flag. Now, the entity list is a license requirement, but there's a line in the entity list explanation which is very, very important for anybody that's interested on this. So, entity list. The entity list identifies foreign parties that are prohibited from receiving some or all items subject to the EAR unless the exporter secures a license. These parties present a greater risk of diversion to weapons programs, terrorism, or other activities contrary to the US national security and or foreign policy interests. And it's that last part, foreign policy interests, it's on humanitarian reasons that this is happening. By publicly listing such parties, the entity list is an important tool to prevent unauthorized trade in such items subject to the EAR. So the entity list can be a foreign party, such as individual business, research institution, or government organisation, for engaging in activities contrary to the US national security and or foreign policy interests. In most instances, license exceptions are unavailable for the export, re-export, or transfer in country to a party on the entity list of items subject to the EAR. Rather, prior license authorization is required, and this is an important part, usually subject to a policy of denial. So the standard policy is to deny that license. So technically, you could get a license for every single DJI product, but the set policy is to deny that. Quibili, perfect time for Sony to enter the drone market. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be very, very interesting to see if their products can come anywhere close to DJI, but I agree with you. It is absolutely it. Hydro 69 FPV, aka Master Roshi FPV. I love those names. So you will get in trouble if you fly your old DJI gear. No, this is an import side of things, preventing companies from dealing with DJI in certain times, which will make it very, very difficult for you to gain a DJI product in your Best Buy or Amazon, that type of thing. So it's going to shrink the market for DJI in the US hugely, because people are going to have to go direct. I'm not even sure whether that's necessarily going to work as far as how DJI would set that up. So I'll be interested to see that. Zachary Crouch. Anybody in the UK want to buy a Mavic Pro? 3 batteries and a charger, all that good stuff. Apparently I won't be allowed to use it anymore. Is that because of the new regulations coming in, Zachary? I'd be interested to see which one you think and where you want to fly, where you won't be able to use that. It'd be interesting. El Smeghead, Skydio is about to make a fortune. Well, there are 5 or 6 drones on the market which are approved on the DoD list. Those are, of course, expensive commercial grade drones. So, you know, it does make it difficult. So, yes. So do you think they're... Calmkeeper, do you think there's ever any possibility that they could brick the device and not allow it to fly in the US seen that it's banned. Well, this type of ban that's happened, I don't think you're going to see that happen, mainly because this is restricting things like the imports and the dealing, company to company dealing from American companies to this entity list. So I don't think you're going to see necessarily a situation where they brick the device, unless DJI decides just to stop supporting. Who knows? But I doubt that. DJI will work tirelessly to find a new way into the US marketplace, and reopen that up for them. Zachary Crouch, the freestyle community is going to be hurting now that they've switched to the DJI digital FPV systems. Yes, there is definitely a marketplace for somebody else to come out with one of these digital systems. We're told that several other companies are working on it. It's definitely time for someone to come out with that. Urbexy, wonder if this will get Parrot back into the consumer market. Could do. I wouldn't be surprised to see that kind of thing, to be honest. I would not be surprised. They have very much backed away from it, which is a shame, because I really enjoy flying my Parrot and Naffy. But yes, Akarasho, someone is piling on for the new administration in the US, just saying. Many people have said that in the chat today, actually. Akarasho, it's really good to see you. JSK, I like the Autel Evo 2, but it just costs so much money. Jacoman, is it J.E. Coman or Jacoman? I hope I'm saying it the right way around. Will this affect purchasing third-party parts, such as props, etc., being sold for DJI drones? Not third-party parts, no. So things like, master air screw and that type of thing, unless they've been put on the list for some strange reason, that isn't going to have the same issue. Canadian drone pilots, it may affect how many third-party manufacturers would be interested to do it if the market is limited. Yeah, that is true. That is true. When there aren't going to be so many of those drones, could we see some form of other system where the parts can be made available for people who do break their drones within it? If refresh is affected, I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see from that point of view. So yes. So as I've been saying, this is an effective US DJI ban from the point of view of imports and from the point of view of US companies being able to deal with them, and it is going to have a significant impact on the way forward. I love how someone called E keeps trying to get in on the chat there. E, you're welcome to come and join the conversation if you want to sign in your real name. Errol Hayward, it will be likely to increase the price of second-hand DJI drones in the US unless they apply a retrospective ban, which is unlikely. Absolutely, yes, I could certainly see that. Etimond 1D. Since I am in Europe, this is likely not going to affect me, but this is FactShark's biggest chance to catch up in the US. I feel sorry for you guys. Yes, it is a very good chance for other companies, especially in the FPV side of things, to really come forward and stake their claim. I completely agree with you there. Urbexy, DJI may leverage their user base. If they bricked the drones and blame it on the US government, you can bet things would get done. And Keith's Place, do you think I can buy the DJI Smart Controller from B&H? Well, I don't know how it's affecting existing stock in retail outlets, so you'd have to contact them to find that out. Now, could we please we've got 96 people watching. First of all, would you mind hitting the like button for me? I would really appreciate that. I would love to see one of our live streams get a really high level of likes. So if you are enjoying it, please do hit that like. But if you're not enjoying it, there is a dislike button as well. I'd like to provide both options, but I'd really like you to hit that like button. But also, could you put 1 in the chat if you are US based and you were going to be buying a DJI product within the next 3 months, including the DJI FPV drone? I'd really be interested to see how many of the people watching were thinking about that. So it's going to be very, very interesting. So this is now starting to eke out into the wider market. People like The Verge, Reuters were the first with this. Obviously, you would expect Drone DJ, people like that, to already have this news. Obviously, Russ from 51 Drones has gone live on this one as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the wider and the mass media are going to deal with this one, because it is an issue. And I think you look at the fact that they've just released an enterprise drone as well. This is going to cause them all kinds of issues, and it will be very, very interesting to see whether or not we get any kind of response from DJI. Let's take a very quick look to see if we have anything on their news side of things yet, which I don't think we're going to see anything from the newsroom for quite a while. It'd be very, very interesting when we do actually see some kind of response from them. Note they're still very much talking about the Mini 2 and Sky Pixel and the Mavic 2 Enterprise on their and the holiday sale on their official newsroom pages. So it's going to be interesting to see the kind of response we're going to get. Jay Coman, thanks for the info. You're welcome. It's J.E. Coman. Thank you. I can see a third-party parts prices going up as less parts being available if the demand goes up and supply goes down. Thanks, Canadian Drone Pilot, for the information as well. Yes, indeed. Max Air 420, great to see you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Akirasho, no DJI for me, waiting to see the new Sony. I am personally waiting to see that as well. I have to say it's going to be very, very interesting to see whether their products can make it. I wonder as well whether or not this is going to impact what they decide to do as far as when they choose to release it. Old Guy in a Drone, thanks for hi Mitch, good to see you. Thanks for the news flash. It's not exactly a flash actually. I've been live streaming for a very long time this afternoon, but hey, if people are here and want to chat about this, as I say, I don't get much chance to chat with my audience directly like this because a lot of my shows are normally a lot more fast paced in terms of content and guests and stuff. So I'm enjoying relaxing, and I wish it was better news we were discussing, but I am enjoying that. Thanks for the news flash. Wonder what this will do for the new DJI FPV drone release. Not very good things, I can assure you of that. John Coopy at Old Guy in a Drone, wonder what it will do with respect to US vendors being able to import parts. Well, interestingly, John, on the entity list description from the Bureau of Industry and Security, and again, I apologise for looking away from the camera, but my monitor set up for the breaking news. I have a couple of large monitors here, which is where I normally edit and do all the channel business from. When I live stream on a Thursday night, I have a monitor which gets put up underneath the camera so I can look at you and see all of my data below. But so I have to look off camera. So apologies for that, not being rude. But it does actually state in here regarding parts. Let me find that part for you. They're parts regarding the parts. So BIS can be added to the entity list, can be an individual business, research institution, government organisation engaging in activities against foreign policy. Yeah, it does list actual parts as well, but I can't find that exact part of the referencing. But let me read the entity list part for those that have just joined us. The entity list identifies foreign parties that are prohibited from receiving some or all items subject to the EAR unless the exporter secures a license. These parties are at greater risk of weapons, terrorism, other activities, etc. The entity list is important to prevent unauthorised trade in items subject to the EAR. They can add a person, company, a government organisation, research institution to that list. In most instances, license exceptions are unavailable for exports, re-export, or transfer in country to a party on the entity list items subject to EIR. Rather, prior license authorization is required, although that is subject to a policy of denial. So they will normally look to straight out the bag, even if you meet licensing requirements, they're pretty much saying that we will probably deny that. For guidance concerning prohibitions, licensing application review applicable to a particular party, please review the party's entry on the list. So they will also put specific items on there. It does indeed impact parts as well, unfortunately. So it is basically that the ban will be put in place through the same mechanism as the US government's ongoing ban on Huawei products. And of course, we know how hard it is now to get Huawei products in the US. And it will make it extremely difficult for US stores like Best Buy or Amazon to directly sell DJI products. US businesses will also face severe difficulty in providing parts or components for DJI to use in its drones. The ban is set to go into effect when the list is officially updated at 11:15 Eastern. Now that does also include the parts side of things, so I think you probably will see an issue there for sure. John Coopy, thank you very much for the $2 super chat. I really appreciate it, sir. Thanks for clarifying that on the DJI drone parts. No problem, sir. Again, we await to hear any kind of clarification from DJI on this, in as far as how they're going to handle this and what is going to be the long game for them. It's been great feedback. Thank you for the US audience in the chat who've been feeling that perhaps this won't be the easiest thing to overturn when a new administration comes in. Does this affect also the DJI FPV? Yes, this is on DJI as a company, as a brand, rather than just any particular product. This is in effect already. Well, yes. What is it? What is EST right now? Yes, this has been in effect for an hour and a half. So this is in full effect. So it will be very interesting to see what happens. Waiting to see if this hits mainline media in the US and the evening news. I think it probably will, because this is obviously a very big product. Drones are very much a hot button subject. And as I was saying earlier in the stream, it's going to be very interesting to see how this impacts the wider consumer confidence. So I'm not sure there. It'll be, as I say, it will be very interesting to see how that happens. Richard Greenfield, sorry, let me switch to my other chat because my on-screen chat is showing me people's names slightly differently. Liquid FX FPV, are they pulling stock on shelves? I don't know. I don't know whether the point of dealing with the company from the entity list is the import, because it certainly is, or whether or not a transaction on behalf of DJI, so technically you're selling a product to then send DJI some money. I'm not sure whether that sweet spot, where that sweet spot is hit. So we will be reaching out to retailers for clarification on that. But Richard Greenfield, thanks for joining us as well. I might not like DJI, but I don't want to see this happening. In the last couple of years, they have been a leading force in innovation in the hobby. And that's very true. I know that some would argue that we'd have another company, large company, in their place if DJI never existed. But certainly we wouldn't have the drone market we have now, or the tech market, camera tech market, from that point of view. I know Sony and there's so many other big companies in the camera market, but in the drone hobby, I don't think it would be the same. I completely agree with you there. So Craig Jones, good to see you as well. Thank you for joining us. So currently in the US, key government computer networks are being hacked, reportedly by Russian intelligence, but nothing is being done. Yet because China bleeped off Trump, we are being penalised. Yeah, I mean, that is part of the issue here. And I think that's one of the reasons why this was done under humanitarian reasons and not espionage or national security issues from a tech point of view, because it's much harder to overturn something on humanitarian reasons. So, but I do agree with you. I know exactly what you're saying, and a lot of people will feel that way. Coast to Coast Drones Bill, who wants to see a homegrown drone dude? Oh, who wants to see a grown drone dude cry? I so wanted the new FPV combo. Yeah, and that is going to be a serious issue for a lot of people, and it'll be very interesting when DJI do come out with clarification on this, as to what angle they're going to take, as to how they feel they're going to be impacted, and whether or not they've already been planning for this, whether they have something up their sleeves. I mean, entity list is a very, very clear and defined thing, so I don't see how they're going to be able to move around this, frankly. It's going to be very interesting. As far as impact on us over here in the UK and the EU, I don't think we're going to be seeing any kind of copycat, any kind of move to follow it. In actual fact, Huawei are banned they're on the entity list already in the US, so face an effective ban in the US. But they actually were, until recently, being considered to run the 5G network in the UK until things were changed there. So I don't think we're necessarily going to see the EU or the UK following suit anytime soon. But you never know. You certainly never know where things are going to end up, frankly. Okay. So that will be it for today. Thank you very much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. This was intended to be a very brief breaking news thing, but we've actually been going for about an hour and a half. Actually, my clock is telling me here. So thank you for those who've been with us all the way, and thank you for those who've popped in and out as well. I really appreciate it. This kind of breaking news will be coming more often on Geeksvana. This is a way that I enjoy interacting. As I say, my normal live shows are on the Thursday night are very formulaic. I don't want to use that word, but they consist of a run order. There's a lot of work put into them from the point of view of I have a lot of content to get through. But so I've really enjoyed kicking back and chatting to people. I thought I'd be on about 20 minutes, but I've really enjoyed it. So thank you very much for joining me. Jimmy J, sure, as I join you are leaving. LOL. I'm sorry, sir. Bexy, good turnout. Yes, it was. Thank you very much for everyone for joining us, and thank you for the person that has taken the time to make a few different accounts so they can come back and say things. I like the that has a good meme name there, so thank you for that. And Kimbo, Canada will be fine. Drone laws here are not that bad. Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. But yes, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Should we have a little word from Lib before we go? Everybody like that? One in the chat if you want to hear from Lib before we go. Let's see if everybody wants to hear a little video from one of our little outros. I'm sure you all do. Chat's taking a few seconds to update. We are on zero latency or low latency, so Jimmy J said sure, so here you go.
Did you know the most interesting people in the world subscribe to this channel? Coincidence, obviously.
Yeah, complete coincidence. It just so happens that our subscribers are awesome, cool people. And again, I want to say my final words before I get off. Thank you so much, everyone that's watching, for supporting today's show, but also for supporting the channel and getting us over 5,000 subscribers. Amazing. It is awesome. Check out the community tab for some exclusive limited edition. There's only 50 of the 5K celebration presenter shirts like this one, but in black, available. So thank you very much for joining us. Jason Mendez, saw you on Ready Set Drone and became a fan. Thanks for the update. Well, thank you very much, sir. Yeah, I will see you guys later when I find my outro button.